Morning, everyone. I need to adjust something. There we go. So it's 7 days to go. It's too late for everything if you haven't done anything now. If you're not registered, it's too late. Although don't worry, because the news yesterday was that Labour are planning, I say don't worry, it's too late for this one, but Labour apparently are looking at automatic voter registration for future elections. Obviously, that's not a panacea in itself, but it does help a great deal. It's too late to get your voter ID if you haven't already sorted it. So it's too late to get your proxy. It's too late to get your postal vote. If you have registered for a postal vote recently, though, before the deadline, and it hasn't arrived, please chase it up with the councils, because apparently some postal ballots have not been sent out yet. You need them. You can't just troll along to the polling station if you don't have them. So chase up your council. Make sure everyone that you know that can vote goes to vote. Tim Ballum straight in there with a £10 super chat. Thank you very much. Morning, Flaps. Oh, who's that? Who's Flaps? Or are we all Flaps? But I thought I would talk about the dirty tricks now. So we're into the last 7 days. And I mean, I said a long time ago, this is going to be the nastiest, dirtiest election campaign I have ever known. I'm not actually sure if I'm right. Obviously, they've now gone full on with the dirty tricks. Last night, we had the TV debate, and there were a number of things around it. But I want to start you off with something else, because this is the thing. Although the Tories have nothing to lose and they are playing the dirtiest game they can, they're comically bad at it. I'm just going to give you a little example. Some of you may have seen this. Some of you may have seen it. So Greg Hands, you all know Greg Hands, don't you? He was the former party chair. He was the Conservative Party chair under Rishi Sunak originally. Last year, he was the one who was going around with his note all the time. I'll give it to Greg. I will give it to him. He at least put some effort in. As party chair, he put the effort in. I'll give him that. You know, he was energetic. So this is something he's posted. It's a video approval, I suppose, from someone called Amanda. I'll read it out to you. Amanda says, I have always voted Labour, but for the first time in my life, I will be voting for Greg Hands. I have decided to vote with my heart and for the local community where I live. Now, here's the thing. I can't rule out that there might be some lifelong Labour members out there who, this year of all years, suddenly decides to vote Conservative. It takes all sorts to make a world. Who am I to judge? However, it seems a little unlikely, doesn't it? It seems a little unlikely. And sure enough, this Amanda is a Conservative councillor. She's been a Conservative councillor for 25 years. Now, I'll tell you what I don't get. Because this isn't the first time, is it? Do you remember right at the start of the campaign where Rishi Sunak put a couple of Conservative councillors in an audience of workers to pretend that they were just ordinary biscuit factory workers to ask him questions? Here's what I don't get. Why do they keep using councillors? Because people will smell a rat. What's happened is people have looked at that and thought, I'm not sure I believe that. And they've looked up the local councillors and found her. So, what? Why don't they use someone who's just like a friend of a friend? You know, like Lee Anderson did in 2019. He would have gotten away with his scam if he hadn't actually recorded his scam in progress. But he at least used someone. Tim Ballon, £10 super chat again, thank you. It says, did she suffer an equine head injury? Who knows? But, you know, it's just, I mean, why tell such a stupid lie? You know, you're a Conservative councillor for 25 years. Were you really voting Labour on the sly? In which case, why aren't you being kicked out of the party? Do you know what? Because it's disappointing, isn't it? Tories used to take pride in their lies. They used to, come up with good lies. They used to put effort into their lies. They can't be bothered anymore. I'm not angry. I'm more disappointed with them. £0.85 super chat, thank you. It says, felt wrong when Sunak goes on about his daughters, hearing of Starmer's concern for his kids, seeing child stars with issues, felt exploitative. I mean, politics is exploitative, I will say that. Of all the things I could judge Sunak harshly for, bringing his daughters into it isn't one. It's sort of what you do. In fact, actually, what's been really remarkable in this campaign, and the right wing have been doing their nut over it, is that Keir Starmer's wife hasn't been involved. They can't understand it. Where's Vic? Where is she? Why isn't she on the campaign trail? It's like, mate, she's got a job. She does a job. She's got a job. She's not little wifey. And they can't understand it because it's like normal in politics to show you like you're a family man and all that business, isn't it? Or the family woman, as the case may be. Margaret Thatcher used to have old Dennis snapping around her heels as well. So, it's like you're showing that you're, this family unit. But anyway, that was the comedy lie. That was the comedy bit. So there were obviously some there was a lot of unpleasantness around the debate last night. Not just in the debate. The debate itself was rubbish. There's only been one decent debate this campaign, and that was the one on Question Time, where you had the four main leaders and none of them were on stage at the same time as each other. That was the best one. It was questions from the audience. You had a decent amount of time to answer the questions, no interruptions, nothing like that. Yesterday's debate was basically like the first one. I don't even know, part of me was thinking it's a bit better than the first one, I think, but only just. Jack's £5 super chat, thank you. It says, one of the classic lies was Labour in the pocket of the SNP and actually was effective. Yeah, mostly from 2015, a little bit 2017. Things like that are, though, you use the hung parliament as a beating stick. It was. But the problem now they've got is a lot of they've lost credibility. But if we go over where they are. So first of all, they did this in 2019. So what they did, it says Tax Check UK, pretending to be a fact-checking site. It is, of course, not. In fact, it says there at CCHQ Press. That's Conservative Campaign Headquarters, the press office. They did this in 2019 as well during the big TV debate. And there's several TV debates, but during big one, they released this. They called it Fact Check UK in 2019. They've called it Tax Check UK this time. So it's even naffer. But they put this out trying to claim, trying to pretend they were a fact-checking site and trying to debunk everything Labour was saying. Unfortunately, now Twitter has the community notes. Now, it does take time for the community notes to come online, of course, but it was called out. Unfortunately, not by the mainstream media, or not much of it. It was, I looked at the BBC's website coverage afterwards. I didn't really see mention of this bit of naughtiness. Starmer should be making more of the Tories being in Butler's pocket, or Putin's pocket, maybe. The thing is, I think you can go too far on the negativity. I do think Labour, and I said this before the very first debate, I do think Labour should quota their negativity. They should attack the Tories, of course. But I also think for every attack line, you want two positive lines for the future. Because I always have ringing in my head the lessons of the 2016 Brexit referendum, where the debrief afterwards, analysts noted that one of the major failings of the Remain, the Remain campaign was it was just too negative. It was all, if we leave, this is bad and this is bad and that's bad and that's pretty terrible. And we didn't really make the positive case for it. Granted, it wasn't helped by the fact we chose Cameron and Corbyn to lead it. That wasn't really our choice, I suppose. But nonetheless, the campaign was negative. Whereas the Leave campaign had negativity and positivity. So I always feel, I do think Labour do need to pick and choose. And I think they probably have. I'll I'll come on to something else in a minute just to show you what the impact is. But, you know, just check the super chats there. Ivan Ambrose is in there. $9.99. Thank you very much. The format was wrong again last night. Okay, yeah, absolutely. Like the first head-to-head, the leaders should go one at a time. Audience should have full involvement. Elections about the public. I'll tell you something else. I don't know whether my memory is a bit faulty. I seem to remember the ones in 2019 being better. Because I do recall where sometimes Boris Johnson tried to go over his 2 minutes in the 2019 ones with Jeremy Corbyn. But by and large, they tended to behave themselves. Rishi Sunak has just been rude. And he's been allowed to do it. And I'll say what I said after the first TV debate. The presenter, people keep saying, oh, they should have a mute button. That doesn't work. Because they're right next to Keir Starmer's microphone. They can still be heard by the audience. They can still interrupt. Not a mute button, a water gun. I've got a water gun. We use it to discipline the dogs. Like, if the dogs go, rah, 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 and I say, shut up. If they shut up, that's fine. If they don't shut up, they get a blast with the water gun. They don't like that. So they mostly shut up when I tell them to. They should have done that. I know Rishi Sunak is used to speaking whilst getting soaking wet, but I don't think it's embarrassing. It would be humiliating for him. I don't think he would like a squint in the eye. So that's what they should have done. But at the end of the day, I mean, it was the debate itself was a complete shambles. It's done now, though. It's finished. Let me get rid of this. Let me just show you something. Here we go. So these are some polls. Now, there were various polls came out. You may have noticed the first one that came out was a YouGov poll, which basically gave it 50-50. Now, obviously, some people will have watched it and go, are you mad? Sunak beat him. And others will go, are you mad? Starmer was best. Doesn't matter. You know, those people, a 50-50 suits Starmer. All through this campaign, Rishi Sunak has needed to make gains. Starmer, I mean, the way Labour's campaign has been described, and it's been described like this for a very long time, it's like trying to walk across a highly polished floor with a Ming vase. So Starmer's job has been to just not slip up. That's it. You know, the default position at the start of this campaign was Labour winning a landslide. All he had to do was not slip up. That is why when people sort of said about some of the other debates where Angela Rayner was there, oh, she was a bit subdued. Yeah, because she's also carrying the Ming vase, right? So it has been subdued. There have been things, it's like they've gone one way and the other. Like, actually, before I just look at this in detail, let me just put something else that is more relevant here. Like this one, I might have to read it out to you. So this is a list of issues that the public think, in red, they think it's been discussed too much. Purple, not being discussed enough. So there's only one issue where more people think it's been discussed too much than not enough. Trans issues. Because the Tories have been pushing these culture wars. And we know Labour have been like, it's like one way then the other, isn't it? You know, you've got a couple of things where you go, oh, Keir Starmer did that well. Yeah, that's good, fine. And then there's another one where you go, did you have to say that? But ultimately that is because the Tories, like 1 week before the polls open, have decided to go with trans issues and culture wars, particularly attacking trans people. And yet the public are pissed off with it. It's not their main concern. If you look down here at their main concern, social care for the elderly, cost of living, crime, supporting the NHS, affordable housing. You know, these are the ones where people think that, not just Sunak, this isn't about Sunak, by the way, this is about the politicians in general, have not been talking enough about them. And in red, hardly anyone thinks they've been talking too much. So, you know, it's trans issues, it's like, yeah, there's hardly anyone thinks they haven't been talking enough about it. And 38% think they've been talking too much about it because it doesn't impact most people's lives. Only 16 think not enough. And do you know what? I reckon a lot of those 16% are the ones who are the culture warriors who want to listen more about it. Larry Cusack, $5 Australian. Is that Australian dollars? Something beginning with an Still haven't got. Oh, it is Australia. Still haven't got my postal vote in Oz. Likely, I'll miss the deadline to return it. Hope it goes well, regardless. But I'll not get my say. Yeah, it's international is really awkward. Although people who have now any British citizen who's living abroad now can vote in theory, but you are at the mercy of the postal vote unless you could sign someone up as a proxy that you trusted back home. That was unfortunately the best. So I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure that they're quite managing international voting anyway. I mean, really, you should be able to. There should be some, particularly in major countries like Australia, where you've got large British immigration populations. At least a place in Australia where you can post it in Australia and it'll be counted there. It all seems a bit mad. But again, hopefully it will, improve a lot of things for the next election. The first of which is stop the lying. It's absolutely mad. Again, if I put this thing up, it's insane. Like, if you're a company that makes fudge, your advertising is not allowed to mislead your customers. There are laws in place, trading standards, that say that you cannot deliberately mislead your customers. And yet, political parties in an election campaign can tell any lie they like. There is absolutely no law against it. Because the other thing they've been doing, let me have a look, here we go. So they're now putting up, look, new Conservative ads appear to be rolling up, claiming Labour will launch a national ULEZ this July. So there's now targeted ads to different parts of the country saying, oh, Labour have confirmed a ULEZ coming, like Labour's national ULEZ coming to a road near you this July. No, not at all. Downright lie. And it needs knocking on the head for next time. Scott Walton, 499, thank you. Says, I think Labour have looked worse on trans than they are because their position's more nuanced than either polarised side wants. No, it's just trying to appeal to too many people. I'll give you a couple of examples in terms of what's been said this week. So in terms of meeting J.K. Rowling, so they said, well, we'll have a meeting with J.K. Rowling then. And that's absolutely fine. I've noticed there's some people going, well, why can't we have a meeting with J.K. Rowling? It's like, are you followed by 14 million people? I mean, that's politics. She's followed. It's not 14 million people in this country, but it's probably a few million people in this country. That'll be why. But I haven't got a problem with that. Where I have a problem is Labour should have said, look, we're quite happy to meet. Absolutely. However, just to make it clear, one thing that's not up for discussion is that trans people are real. They're not elves. Trans people are real people. Because J.K. Rowling basically tries to say they're not. Then you've got the David Tennant thing. So Keir Starmer has said, his language should have been more sensitive. Now, this is where I think Starmer should have used some nuance himself. Yes, so David Tennant's basically said, he doesn't want Kemi Badenoch to exist. He doesn't mean in a Frank Hester way. He just means he wants her to go away. That being said, if a Labour candidate had said that, I would have said, yeah, you probably should apologise for that. However, consider this. David Tennant has a trans kid, and Kemi Badenoch is constantly saying that trans people do not have the right to exist. She keeps saying that trans people do not have the right to exist. Now, if you're going to have a senior politician telling you that your kid doesn't have a right to exist on a regular basis, quite frankly, I think a little bit of insensitive language is perfectly understandable, and I do think that nuance should have been there from Starmer as well. And Tennant never mentioned the colour of Badenoch's skin, yet she made it an issue. Oh yeah, they do that all the time, Tories. Absolutely. Oh, as soon as he said something about, oh, he's attacking a woman. Oh, he's attacking a black woman. Oh, he's racist and misogynistic. And yet, with the Frank Hester thing, and the same people, including Kemi Badenoch, were saying, oh, why are you making it all about race? When Frank Hester literally said, She makes me want to kill all black women, or hate all black women. Sorry, he wanted to kill her and hate all black women, wasn't it? And it's like, oh, why are you making it all about race all the time? They're total hypocrites. I don't hate. I hate hating. That's the only thing I hate hating. But I hate Tory behaviour. I really hate hypocrisy. I'm fine with people who disagree with me on absolutely everything if it's from a genuine position. If they really believe it, don't matter how stupid I think they are, if it's from a, like, there are probably like Reform UK supporters that I could go, well, okay, you've got your views, fair play, I believe you genuinely hold those views. What I hate is when people know they're lying. When they know they're lying. I absolutely hate that. Because you're not a genuine person. Ivan Ambrose, another $4.99 super chat. Everyone's very generous this morning, thank you. Be paying for Graham's petrol. He's left me on my own again. While he leaflets Rishi Sunak's constituency, where one of the polls out yesterday put Labour just 3 points behind. I don't know how accurate it is, but it's interesting. It says, as well as his incompetence, lies, and being politically inept, Sunak is the worst mannered Prime Minister ever. How is that set an example? Well, that's what surprises me, If there are some things that have genuinely surprised me about Rishi Sunak, this is one of them. I think I said, I probably have to take it back now. When he became Prime Minister and he tried to do he initially tripped up in PMQs, then he tried to do the Boris Johnson shtick, where he just brazened his way through it and just told blatant lies. And I sort of said, and I sort of said at the time, he's not really coming across very well because he can't lie convincingly. You can see it in his eyes, and you could see it yesterday. He can't lie convincingly. He's not like Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson's brain can warp the universe. He can believe his own fantasy world. Rishi Sunak can't, and you can see it in his eyes. And yet he persists with it anyway. So in many ways, Rishi Sunak is actually worse. Alec Barrett, £2 super chat, I think it says, Dawn Butler had full-throated support of Tennant. She fully supported him, but she didn't echo the same language, is what I would say with Dawn Butler. So you could argue what she was supporting was the sentiment, because she didn't ape the same words. And all effectively David Tennant really meant to say was he wanted her rhetoric to stop. And if it won't stop, he doesn't want her on the public scene, which she won't be if she loses her seat. Unfortunately, I think she's probably not going to lose her seat. But it is, they're all possible. They're really all possible. Is Sunak crying? I don't know. Maybe he does. Maybe he's not getting very much sleep at the moment. But he's only got another 7 more days. I suppose technically 8. And then he can go off to the palace, resign. If he's lucky, I actually wonder at this point, what do you reckon? I wonder if at this point, is he maybe hoping he loses his seat? I suspect not. I think his ego can't take it. But wouldn't it be easier for him if he just lost his seat? Because then it's obvious he has to resign. There are some people in the Conservative Party wanting to stay on as leader for a little bit. They don't want him to lead them into the next election. They're not stupid. Well, they're not that stupid. But they want him to hang on because they know that the One Nation Tories are not ready for a leadership contest. They know that the far right have been getting ready for ages and they've been trying to focus on the election. And you can understand the anguish within the party, can't you? Because the One Nation Tories have genuinely been trying to do their best ahead of the election, and the far right have not. They've just been focusing on who should replace Sunak. So they're feeling a bit aggrieved and they're thinking, well, we want a bit more time to get organised. So they want Sunak to not resign straight away, but I don't think it'll fly. I don't think he wants to stay on. I don't think. I can't see it. It'll be interesting, but I can't see it. We should be regarding lying about party as lying about all their candidates because by definition a candidate endorses their party and what it stands for. I think there are shades of grey in politics, but there are some deceptions that really do need stamping out, absolutely needs stamping out. You cannot tell lies about, you cannot just make up policies for an opponent. You cannot turn your own party infrastructure into a pretend independent fact-checking site. There are things that are lies, outright objective lies. We know there's spin. We know it's tricky in politics. Some things can be, you know, matter of opinion, or even if it's not a matter of opinion, you might, you know, there's people that can look at some statistics and just misread it, because most politicians don't understand statistics. Most people don't understand statistics. But then there are just straight up lies. Saying that 31 Blaze, Tories won't be able to form an effective opposition in any case. They'll be too busy in a bun fight of backstabbing for the foreseeable. Well, I agree. I mean, at the moment, polling really cannot help you tell where the Tories are. They could win 50 seats or 150, and do you know what? They're probably just as likely as each other. There are so many seats that have been won by small margins. If I go to the... who did this one? Sorry, it's We Think. There were 2 MRPs that came out yesterday. I would ignore the electoral calculus one. It's rubbish. The We Think one I don't know is rubbish, but I'll tell you what's interesting on it. If I'm just going to... I've not put it up on the screen, but I'll just... it only has 15 seats being won by the Tories by a margin of greater than 10%. 15. That's mental. That's absolutely mad. So, I mean, if the We Think MRP poll is accurate, then I'm telling you something. Ed Davies, leader of the opposition. It may not be. It may not be. It may be that none of the MRP polls is going to come out of this with much credit. Who knows? But if this is anything like accurate, like the Conservatives are not leading the opposition. But even if they do, even if they win 150 seats, I absolutely agree with you. They are not, even though that's technically just about enough to hold most of the positions you need to hold, to shadow most government positions. It's very unlikely. Do I think Stan will actually answer the questions at PMQs? A lot better than we've been used to. Obviously, so again, politics is politics, isn't it? The purpose for opposition MPs in particular is to try and trip the Prime Minister up. That is the purpose of PMQs. Yes, it's all about holding the Prime Minister to account. Yeah, nice one. It's about tripping the Prime Minister up. So for the Prime Minister, it is about avoiding those traps. So there will always be a little... And obviously, if you're an opposition MP, you're going to ask a question on something that is a weakness for the Prime Minister, and everyone has weaknesses. So is he just going to answer it fully and frankly? No, that'd be mad. But are we actually at least going to get a decent attempt to at least say something relevant? I do think so. We will wait and see. We'll have to wait a long time, though, because remember, for the first PMQs, what's to ask about? What's to ask about? You can't ask him about his record. All you can ask is for some more detail about what they're planning exactly. That's it. Because there's no, oh, you said you were going to do this. What happened? It's like, we only just started, mate. So it's going to take several months before you can do anything. Oh, sorry. Hang on. Have I missed a super chat? Did I? I can't see one. Oh, we're right at the top. Rachel House, £5. Sorry if I had forgotten it. It says there are trans candidates running this election. Looking forward to the day when trans rights are not being discussed by 2 ill-informed men. I'm not sure they're ill-informed. I think the problem is that the public are ill-informed and they're trying to, however you want to put it, take advantage of it or avoid slipping up with those people, however you want to look at it. Trans issues is an issue for like 1% of the population in terms of people who are trans or know someone who's trans or close to them. There are unfortunately more people who think trans issues are an issue for them than actually are. I think that's the problem with it. But I do also think we'll come through. It's unfortunate that we have to go through this process every single time. We've had to go through it with, and we're still not there with any of these things. We've had to go through the process with misogyny, with racism, with homophobia. It's now transphobia. I mean, for goodness sake, there isn't a minority position that the Tories will not seek to divide and rule over. But I do think over time, more people, it does get better. So we can only hope it does as well. And Anthony Fisher, thank you for the £5 super chat, pointing that out as well. Richard Gruter's £2 says, thoughts on Starmer Uton first past the post. So really quickly, because we're running out of time. So for those who don't know, because first of all, it was reported that Keir Starmer backs first past the post. So let me just go through exactly what was said, because politicians be tricksy. Now, the first thing I'll say is that what he actually said seems to be supporting first past the post, absolutely. And it is the very first time he's ever done that. Whenever Starmer has talked about first past the post or anything like that in the past, he's never talked positively about first past the post. He has talked positively about proportional representation. His comments have generally been not a priority. So he said two things. The first was that first past the post has resulted in strong governments. And the second thing he said was that we're not changing it. Or we're not, no, what did he say? I need to get the exact words right. I'll do a video on my own channel this later, I think. I think he said either we're not going to change it or we're not going to scrap it. Now, let's take those two things in place. So let's look at the last 14 years. When was the most stable period of the last 14 years of Tory government? It's the 5 years of coalition, right? So the coalition ended in 2015. Since then, so we've had 9 years and we've had 5 prime ministers in those 9 years. We technically had 5 prime ministers over a period of 6 years, but, you know, we'll say the full 9 years. Here's what I would say. And it was first past the post that led to all that, because the coalition could have happened with proportional representation. It's only the single party governments that could have happened with first past the post, right? These Tory governments, whether minority or majority governments, it flipped. Does anyone here seriously believe that Keir Starmer thinks the last 9 years has been stable government? Because here's the way I look at it. Keir Starmer says first past the post has brought us stable government. So what I would do is either suggest that, you know, if you think Keir Starmer genuinely believes the last 9 years has been stable government, even though the Conservatives have been pushing a line that it has been anything but stable. So you've either got to think Keir Starmer's lying about that, or he's lying about his support for first past the post. He's got to be lying about something, hasn't he? Because he can't genuinely believe that the last 9 years has been stable, because his own party's campaign has been saying the opposite. Then the second thing about not changing it, that is less of an issue, because the party policy is that first past the post breeds distrust in politics, and that is the official party position, and alienation as well. That is their words. And Labour's official position is that it should be not for the Labour Party to decide if it should be changed, but for people. Fine. Then put something in place to let the people say. That being said, it's a very unhelpful comment. So what I would say is, look, I'm looking for the tricksiness in it. I'm prepared to look at it as the Ming vase, not wanting to drop the Ming vase, because he's asked this question that he doesn't want to answer. At the same time, I did also think the answer was unhelpful. Alec Brett, £5. It's the right system, and you know it results in strong government. We're not changing it. Yeah, okay. Those sounded like close to the exact words. Yeah, yeah. That's what I would say about that. Do you genuinely believe that Keir Starmer genuinely believes that the last 9 years has been stable government? Because I don't think he does believe that. That being said, the thing I always will say, there is some opposition, formidable opposition within Labour to proportional representation, and there's a lot of support for it. Now, if you support proportional representation, it's going to be my big thing after next week. That's my big thing. There's several causes I will champion. Electoral reform is top of the list. If you are inside Labour, by far and away the best way you can help is to join the Labour campaign for electoral reform. If you are outside of Labour, then joining another group, a non-partisan group, is ideal. And there are several, like the Movement Forward that, we talk about stopthetories.com, stopthetories.vote, sorry. They're going to be pushing for it, and they've got a plan for that. But there are other groups as well. There's got your Electoral Reform Society, you've got Make Votes Matter. The Labour campaign for electoral reform work with those groups as well. So that's what I would say. What we want a big internal push, which we're going to get, but we need an external push as well, because internal Labour discussions cannot generate a public debate. We need the external groups to do that. So we need external groups to do their work. So that's what I would say about that. But anyway, we've completely run out of time, I'm afraid, there. Thanks very much for coming on, everyone. Have a great day. 7 more digging days left for Rishi Sunak before he can be allowed to go to California, where he can explain all that business over the green card. Because he's technically broken American law, I think. But yeah, have a great day anyway. Thanks very much for coming on, everyone. And don't forget to click the like button and subscribe to the channel, of course. And until next time, I'll see you later.